One of the things I'm so interested in what you're saying here is that often people who are guardians of the catalogs of people who created our American musical theater heritage tend to guard them so that they don't change, so that they're rather inviolable. But representing the Rodgers and Hammerstein legacy, you've actually made these things available to grow and change along with the culture, and you've chosen to be flexible. So before we get into specifics, I'm wondering if you could talk about your philosophy of this.
Sure. My philosophy comes from instinct. I've never really thought about what it actually was. Just as in the doing comes the philosophy. I would say this to start. If you inherit a tangible work of art, you can keep it, you can sell it. You can put it on your wall, or you can sell it and be done with it. If you inherit a copyright, it's a burden as much as it's a pleasure, because copyrights, no matter what they are, need to be managed somehow or other. And in a way, the smartest thing that the Rodgers and Hammerstein families did was to keep the office and to hire somebody, whoever that person is, because I became the fulcrum. I became the person who had to get these two families. It is a 50-50 partnership, and was a 50-50 partnership when the guys sat down to write Oklahoma. And as any of you may know, 50% interest in something only gives you the right to stop things from happening, unless you can convince the other person to agree with you. So from the Rodgers and Hammerstein family standpoint, having an office and having a bunch of people whose professional job it is to manage these copyrights that they clearly own, that has allowed me to have the kind of freedom that I feel as if I've had, even though our reputation is that we're very fierce, which is exactly the reputation I want. Within being fierce, though, if we're not flexible, I think we do run the risk of the doily cart, Gilbert and Sullivan. Until the moment comes when they're out of copyright, nobody can do anything with them.
So there's a philosophy as keeper of the flame to keep it exactly as it was, or to extend it.
No, okay. I have a two-sided answer to that, which is the works that are really, really well made need to stay the way they were created in order for them to work. We have a saying at the office that if somebody takes the script of the South Pacific and decides that it's the blueprint to create their own musical, we're all in trouble, because you start to fix South Pacific, as Trevor Nunn tried to do a couple of years ago in England and fell on his face doing it. Don't do that. So that's where I don't mind being charming, smile on my face, saying don't do that. And I know you think I'm saying this because that's my reputation, and that's what but I'm telling you, I've been around long enough, you will lose. One of my phrases is, if you are good to Rodgers and Hammerstein, they will be very good to you. But if you mess around with it, at your peril. That having been said, there are interpretive notions where I think we will benefit from encouraging artists to feel as if they take them on as their own. As long as the creative notion and the world that they're existing in is something that works in conjunction with the original material.
Tell us about Doug Elkins coming to you to ask permission to do Fräulein Maria.
Well, as I alluded to earlier, the great credit to Doug on many levels. I mean, I hadn't seen it in a couple of years this afternoon, and to see it in a pristine, it was done at Joe's Pub, which is at best, shall we say it's a cabaret room. Joe's Pub in New York. That's part of the public theater, and it was amazing to see anything in Joe's Pub that had the word dance in any way connected with it. Then to realize what they did on that was amazing. But so I have nothing but accolades for what I saw this afternoon, because what's not to like about that thing? So we got a call from Amy, I think, and I remember a couple of meetings not having a clue as to what he was talking about. Not a clue. And of course, anything that's slightly odd, I figure I need to understand what it is so I could explain it to Mary Rodgers, to Alice Hammerstein, in the case of Sound of Music, to Anna Krauss, who speaks for Lindsay and Krauss, who wrote the libretto. So I remember a couple of meetings like, deconstruction, only the movie soundtrack, telling the story, not telling the story, inspired by, making fun of, having fun, But it all seemed interesting enough, and certainly nobody had ever come and asked this of us before. And in a way, kind of with the spirit of the sing-along, it's like, what's not to encourage if it's in these good hands, even if it's a vernacular and in a world I don't particularly understand, let's give them the permission to do it with a short leash. Amy, right? A short leash. So we can all sort of take it a step at a time and figure out if there's concern and if there's a problem. I have to say I've been thrilled by what's happened. Our only ongoing concern, and we talk about it all the time, is if there is a multi-million-dollar production of The Sound of Music playing on Broadway, and this is playing at the Dance Theater Workshop, query whether, I don't think audiences are going to care. In fact, I would argue that the audiences would probably want to see both. But what I've discovered is the person with the $10 million at the Broadway theater will get in a panic, in a complete panic. So the art to this is simply to leave enough room so that everybody can exist happily, and luckily the next big production of The Sound of Music that's coming to Broadway is not coming for a while, so I think we'll be okay.
Did you see the show before you gave your blessing?
Well, no, we said yes year one. You can do it at Joe's Pub. How many performances at Joe's Pub? We'll all go down, take a deep breath, and see it, and then we'll talk. And we were delighted by it.
I'd like to actually go back to your experience in the show this afternoon and just your reaction to some of the changes and expansion that's been made for the stage.
Well, the costumes are better, first of all. More costumes, they're better. I don't know, was Edelweiss in it the first year? I certainly didn't remember seeing the Austria-German, that wonderful kind of weird seduction thing between those two men and the Heil Hitler and the hat. I mean, that's a very, again, everybody thinks The Sound of Music is a hopelessly sentimental piece of crap. There is such politics at work in The Sound of Music. And just to have taken Edelweiss and done that little thing with it, I mean, again, I'm not all that versed in dance vernacular, but to see what that was and to know what a statement it's made that is yes, what Edelweiss is about, yes, what Edelweiss and The Sound of Music is about, but but exists in a completely different world in the terminology of this piece. That's the kind of thing that I just thought was extraordinary.